Hello, welcome to Independent.ie, the League of Ireland Premier Division preview. I'm Seán O'Connor. I'm joined today by Daniel McDonnell to look ahead to a big night of action in the Premier Division. And I suppose, Dan, starting with St. Pat's against Dundalk, you had quite a long night the last time these two sides met in Inchicore.
True, actually, yeah. I mean, as we get home before midnight tonight, it'll be progress. Yeah, and I suppose from a Dundalk perspective, they don't want anyone to be locked in dressing rooms again after the game tonight. I know it's something that Stephen O'Donnell tends to do after a bad result. I actually don't know how long they spent in the dressing room after Galway last week. I know he came out quickly enough and gave a very sort of frank interview. And I think the story of the week probably around the league probably to some degree has been the fallout from that for people in Dundalk, and maybe that's just sort of tuning into some of the local commentary and discussion around it. That it's sort of a freaky coincidence, really. The irony of timing that for the next game they end up coming to a place where he's reviled, and yet now he's probably, you think of the first time he came to Richmond Park as the Dundalk manager, he would have been sort of the darling of the away fans and hated by the home fans. But now there's probably a section of the away fans that are very unsure, and he's got something to prove to them. So, he probably would prefer if it wasn't all about him. But if you're talking about this game and previewing it, that Dundalk response with O'Donnell in the spotlight, Pat's as it is anyway, it sets up a hell of a night. And he said he's looking forward to seeing if there's a response, if there's a reaction from his players. I mean, there has to be. They're 7 points behind third. The cup is gone. If they are to control their destiny for the rest of the season, they probably have to win this game. Definitely can't lose it, and probably have to win it. So it's a huge game.
Yeah, like as you said, their European ambitions solely rest on the league, an absolute must win for them. But I suppose the main focus coming into this game is just all about Dundalk. You'd almost forget that St. Pat's is still with the outside shout to win the league.
Yeah, they are. I don't think they're good enough to do that. Certainly not in their current form. Anyway, I think protecting third would be pretty good for them. I mean, considering they've had a managerial change this season, and they've got the cup. And I think the cup is their chance of winning something. Now it is true that they've had a couple of ropey performances and they've been on the road for them. And they've still picked up some wins at least, even though. I mean, I suppose you should mention in Galway will be promoted tonight if they get the job done down in Kerry. Finn Harps are at the bottom of that division and second from bottom, and Pat struggled against them last week. So their form isn't great, but maybe getting back to Richmond again, it seems like it's not a good home crowd, which has been the story of their season. So they'll be hoping that in some ways it inspires a bit of a renaissance from them form wise.
Two teams still going for Europe at the closing stage of the season. Another team with European ambitions, Shells, they host Cork City tonight. Shells coming into it, one loss in 13 and really good form, but Cork obviously coming into the game off two big wins, one in the league and one in the cup.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Cork are probably the team that are they're in the spotlight in terms of the relegation playoff. Can they actually mount a comeback? And I mean, they have I suppose, a weekend where they're away in Shells tonight and away in Dundalk on Monday. And if they can sort of get something from those two games, I mean, they have half a chance, now you're still feeling that they're very, very Keating reliant, even against Wexford last week, he popped up and you kind of wonder, do they have what it takes to sort of, to really cause problems for Shells, who are, a low scoring team, but the best defence. And you sort of, I think Shells are sort of a fascinating story, really. When they play Bows on Monday, it's a big week for them, and Tala on Friday. And with those two tough away games, you feel if for their European ambitions, they just have to win the first one anyway. And I saw them their last home game against Pats. They were very good. But I suppose they're very good at upsetting the bigger sides, at times. You wonder, breaking down teams lower down, although they went and won in Cork convincingly enough the last time, not on the scoreboard, but they were good. They were good winners in that game. So Shells almost need to step up and become an established top 4, top 5 side and win these home games. But like all these games, there's a lot going on with all of these games tonight because there's so much at stake.
A lot at stake at Tolka Park tonight. You mentioned Galway there on the prospect of getting promoted this evening. One team that could face the relegation is UCD. They'll drop to the first division if they lose to Shamrock Rovers at the Bowl tonight. It's kind of really difficult to see anything but an away win here, Dan.
Yeah, no, Andy Myler has confirmed his departure, and it just goes to show, like, someone with a busy work life. I think, it's very hard for a team like UCD to compete. So I mean, look, because they're done regardless, and mathematically they're gone. And yeah, I mean, look at what Derry City did to Shamrock Rovers. Derry City did to UCD in Belfield. UCD will need to be fairly at it. They can frustrate teams. We've seen it against Pats, but it's hard to see them doing it against Rovers.
Out in the showgrounds, it's Sligo Rovers against Derry City. Obviously, that gap between Derry and Shamrock Rovers standing at 4 points, and they must be getting 3 points if they're to mount a late charge for the league.
Yeah, no, this is a big test for Derry. They've dropped points in Sligo previously last year, and Sligo Rovers are the ones who are looking at Cork City over their shoulder, and they'll be nervously, I suppose, waiting for score updates from Tolka Park. But this is the type of game where Derry, they're coming off the hangover of not winning last week, and sometimes you find with these teams when they miss their chance, it can carry over into their next game. And this away to Sligo Rovers is tough in the context of their running. If Derry can go and win this game, then they've UCD at home next week, and they've got a chance to really put the pressure on Rovers. But you kind of feel, especially, they'll know that Shamrock Rovers is going to win tonight. So nothing less than 3 points will do.
I know you saw Derry last week. In your opinion, is the kind of feeling that that's it for the league now, or is there still a possibility of a late charge?
There's 4 points in it, so you can't declare it over. I mean, I think, but it's more, obviously it's out of their hands. It's in their hands in the sense that they have to win all 6 of their remaining games. But it's out of their hands that will Shamrock Rovers wobble. I mean, they're not going to do it tonight, as I mentioned, against UCD. But Shamrock Rovers play Shells next week, who have caused them a lot of problems. And I feel like that's a key fixture for me. It wouldn't be a massive shock if Shamrock Rovers draw that game, and then you're talking about 2 points if Derry do their job tonight. So and next week. So now you can't declare it. You can't declare it done. I mean, if Derry keep doing their bit, Shamrock Rovers go to Pats on the second last day of the season, and they'd have to win to not go to the last day. So no, I wouldn't declare it as done yet. No.
Dan, the last game this evening, Drogheda hosting Bohemians up in Louth. Bohs won 4 from 4 from their 4 meetings this season, with last weekend's win in the league as well. So Bohs obviously having the form coming into this game.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I mean, they it's a big away win for them last week. And the cup is obviously very exciting for them. But Bohs will have to be looking at, can they just wrap up third through the league and then take away any sort of European stress from the equation, so they can have a proper go at the cup if it ends up going that way. I mean, they've got a hell of a job to do in Galway still. A lot of fans will be excited about that game. But yeah, I mean, Drogheda are probably in a decent enough space in the sense that they probably have enough of a cushion, you would think, unless Cork are massively resurgent, and they'll be looking for a few more points on the board just to be sure of that. And it feels like you're talking in cliches about Drogheda all the time, tough place to go, et cetera, to make it hard for teams, but they do, and they'll be frustrated that they've taken nothing from Bohs this year when maybe they should have in previous games. But yeah, I think for Bohs, the next step for them is not maybe to just put all their eggs in the cup basket and realise they've got a good chance in the league to get Europe done, and we'll see. There's been an upturn in their away record by going to win in Drogheda. Going to do it again would be a good statement for them, given what's coming around the tracks. And they've got to go to Galway, which is definitely a tough place to go in a couple of weeks. So they can use this game as a platform to try and keep the good vibes rolling towards that, and Monday, of course, as well.
Big night of action ahead. Thanks for that, Dan. We'll chat again soon.